month. So that is at our point. There is the possibility.
Steve went to a career day at Bridges Prep up north of the Broad was it last Friday? I think last Friday, lose track of time, but I spent a good amount of time there getting a chance to speak with people who are interested in some aspect of the aviation. They have awesome questions too, so counsel on that. So I appreciate you doing that. But along those lines, I want to remind everybody that your primary role as a board, as an advisory board, is to be advocates for the airport. Because, you know, while county council will always ask when we take a vote, an item forward for them to vote on, they'll always ask if the airport's board is informed and knows what's going on, and they want to know where you stand. But you don't have an official approval or disapproval of items, so to speak, if that makes sense. You're a voting body in so much as you send forward a recommendation to council, but you're not an approval or denial board. But your most important role is as advocates. So I wanted to make the appeal again that as we move those items forward that you approved as a recommended item to go to a committee of council, which is always our next step, that you would consider at least having a couple folks, be present at that committee meeting. I think it would mean a lot to county council to see, because nobody does this. I don't know that I've seen more than once or twice any of the volunteer boards have folks show up to stand up when that item is actually being presented for a council vote, and that's when it really is important. So I think it would be fantastic. On the 27th, we've got items that you're going to vote on today to send forward to with a positive recommendation to the committee. Those will be up for the committee vote on the 27th. So I'd love to have a couple of you there at the county. I think it's going to be just at the administration building. We can double check that as it gets a little bit closer to make sure it's not in Hilton Head. So that's my advocates thing. The other one is the fun side of that is when we do events. So when we do the Breakfast Club, when we do the 5K run, when we do any kind of open house type event, when we do the event that's coming up at the Beaufort Executive on April 27th, and I'll say that again, but remember last month I wasn't totally sure about that date, but it is April 27th. Love to have you at those events too, because some people, they do love to see representatives of the board at those events. So come to the fun ones too, not just the work ones. We'll have you at both. And then, of course, anytime we do something in the terminal, you guys have been great at attending all those. Any of the ribbon cuttings we've had, the first flights of new routes and things like that. You've been great attending those, so we do appreciate that. All right, so let's jump back to the staff spotlight. Oh, not yet. There's a picture of the crew of us on the ARF truck. This is before the monsoon hit.
Is that
so
you?
we're all still driving.
Yes. You in the hat?
I can neither confirm nor deny that, but there was somebody who was mistaken for a leprechaun riding on the top of the truck.
The hat is what you noticed.
As far as we're good.
Not the suit?
That's the chief hiding behind me, and then the guy in the back needed a ride, so we gave him a ride. He had to wear a hat though. It was fun. We had a great time, and I was telling Councilman here a little bit before the meeting that there were a lot of attendees at that, or a lot of the parade spectators who were cheering for the airport. We love our airport, get us more flights to Dallas and this sort of thing. But there was a lot of fans out there. We couldn't hear all of them because my son was operating the air horn and the siren, and he was getting No, he's not a little guy. He's 17, okay? So he was not the cute little innocent kid hitting the button. Yeah, he could have been malicious, but it was great. We had a good time. We did get pretty soaked, but it didn't dampen the spirits. We had an awesome time, and people really enjoyed, I think, seeing that type of fire truck out there, that apparatus, because they're used to seeing the red fire trucks. Structural trucks are cool enough, but you add this and nobody really knows what it is. So it was really fun to have out there.
John,
Yes,
does the truck say Hilton Head Island Airport on it?
It does.
Okay, good. I was going to say that.
Yep, it's got the new logo on it and everything,
Yeah,
so
good.
it is 100% up to date. And that is the brand new truck that we just put into service a few months ago that was purchased with a 100% FAA grant. So that was, give or take $1, is about $700,000 truck, 100% paid for. So that was fantastic. All right, let me move this guy. That might be the best picture of Rob I've seen. Sorry, Rob. All right, so Rob Neal, like I said, I want to highlight an employee each time we get together so you get to know some of our folks. If you haven't seen this guy, you're not trying, because he has been there for a long time. Like I say, it's his 43rd year in service. He wrote us a quick bio, so I'm going to read that because he put the time in to write this, and it's kind of nice. So Rob writes, "My dad retired as a deputy chief of Coronado, California Fire Department after 30 years. As a result, I was brought up in the fire services, so to speak. Fast forward 19 years, I attended Miramar College in California and obtained a fire science degree in 1977. How old were you in 1977? In 1981, I became a career firefighter for Hilton Head Island Fire Department. Over the next 30 years, I advanced through the ranks before retiring in December of 2010. My claim to fame, as they say, came when I was dispatched on an alarm of vehicle versus tree incident. Upon arrival, my partner and I pulled a 17-year-old male from a burning car and saved his life. My partner and I both received the South Carolina Medal of Valor for that. We just happened to be in the right place at the right time. It's so typical of a first responder, right? As mentioned above, I retired December 2010. After only 3 weeks of retirement, I was stir crazy, so I went back into the fire service, this time as an ARF firefighter for Hilton Head Island Airport in January of 2011. I've threatened to retire over the last few years. He says that about once a week. But to tell you the truth, I just can't seem to hang it up and leave my second family. So Rob's been at it for, like I say here, he's in his 43rd year of fire service. He is fantastic. He's a fixture at the airport. And he also is an RV guy. So he does check rides, so to speak, on RVs and that. So if you ever are in need of that, Rob can take care of you there. But he's also always there with a smiling face at the ARF too. So we're glad to have him, and I just wanted you all to meet him if you haven't had a chance to. So that is Rob Neal. All right. So let's just a couple things. The Beaufort Executive, and Steve, you have to tell me if I forget anything because I was a little bit late putting this together. Just want to remind you that the date on this is set for April 27th. This is what I spoke about last month, and this is that great opportunity to pair up the state's Aviation Week with a chamber event. So this is the chamber does a monthly business after hours event. So we're going to host that. And it just so happens to fall within Aviation Week, which is great. So we'll have some folks from the Aviation Association as well as Aeronautics Commission present. And then of course all the chamber leadership and hopefully some of our elected officials as well will be able to join us there at Beaufort Executive.
Which chamber is this, the Beaufort Chamber?
Beaufort Regional Chamber. And as I say there are sponsor opportunities available. So the airport is providing the venue, but there'll be food and hors d'oeuvres and drink and things like that available. So if anybody wants to highlight their business or something, then feel free. I think Chris Butler's already committed. They're going to help sponsor a little bit. Campbell Oil is going to kind of underwrite the majority of that event as our fuel provider out there. So that's great. That fits into their marketing assistance that they give us at the airport. So if anybody else is interested, we will have a display board with any company logo and in-kind sponsor. So if that interests anybody, that's just come see us. But please, if you can attend, we'd love to have you there. And check out the new terminal too, because we poured the concrete pad last week or a week and a half ago. So so that we're almost complete with the outdoor renovations. So we're excited. All right, any questions on Beaufort Executive before we move to Hilton Head?
Yeah, just one comment. I noted periodically I look at the websites, and I happened to be looking at the ARW website a week or so ago. While it was updated a couple of years ago, some of the information on there is still very old. When you look in the What's New area, 2021.
All right, anything else at Beaufort Executive? Mark, you gotten the bids back, and we have picked a low bid on that, and we've submitted a letter for the operators. Their equipment was pretty old, so this will update all of that. Airlines coordination meeting was held last Thursday. We had 2 out of 3 airlines. United had a conflict, but we had American there and Delta happen as well, some additional bids. All right, and then the TSA pre-check. This is an event that Jim and I spoke about a long time ago to try to get set up because of the demand for pre-check. And so we worked with, there's a single company that works with TSA. They must have a contract, but it's called IDEMIA, because they need to run the show. And we just got that this morning, and she said, you might not even need to put this out, because
No.
we've got over 2/3 of them filled already.
We may have to change the,
Global entry or bulk.
From what I understand, it's just TSA
Pre-check.
pre-check. Yep.
Yeah, I think everybody probably knows this, but the real problem at Hilton Head Airport with TSA pre-check is you get to go in your own line to get to the screener, but then there's still only one conveyor belt for everything else. Everybody still gets melded together, and that's where the choke point is.
Yep.
Hopefully someday, with the new terminal, there'll be a way to resolve that.
Yep. No, that's to your point, Brian. The new terminal it is designed for two lines. So as long as we get all the equipment that we need on time, then we would have the opportunity to do that. So, yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, pre-check it's a benefit, but it's only, sometimes it's based on timing, for the benefit pre-check. All right, any other questions on that one? Or the terminal project, I hit that kind of quickly, but that's what we're looking at now. The next key date is April 19th to receive those bids. All right, I think it's almost all this. And these are fresh, just from this morning. This is Millie Coombs. She's a junior at John Paul II. She came by for a few hours to hang out with us. And it was a perfect day because we had Judy and two other folks from Talbot, Brighton, Ellington, and we had a kind of a design and review meeting for the Taxiway Foxtrot project. So I got to swing her right into a design and review meeting and answer some questions and talk about a little bit airport management and what that's like. Well, like I said, she's also in flight training, so she was interested in getting to see a private aircraft. And I said, it kind of depends who's out there and whether they want you to see their airplane. But this gentleman was happy to oblige. And from what Dan tells me, Dan's a Cleveland Browns fan, so take this with a grain of salt. They're not to be trusted, but in general, Dan's a good guy. But he said this plane belongs to the Browns organization. This guy I can't see his hat, but apparently his credentials say Cleveland Browns and stuff, so he does something for the Browns. That's probably the biggest airplane the Browns have. I don't know if they've ever been in the playoffs, so that might be the only airplane.
I can't get the team on there.
But yeah, but Millie got a chance to get in the cockpit and see this. Like I said, she's in flight training, but she's only been able to see, I don't know if she's flying the 150 or something, so she's seen very small airplanes. And this is pretty cool for her to be able to see that, sophisticated cockpit and get to kind of do some Q&A with the flight crew. So pretty fun. And then that's her on the upper right. She's sitting up in the ARF truck. What did I do? You know what I'm doing? You think people are listening to me? They're always listening to me. All right, in the upper right, that's Millie in the cab of the ARF truck, and that's Angelo, who's up there as a driver, so he's kind of explaining to her how different things work. So it was great to have her out there, and to all of our viewers out there in TV land, I know there's a huge, vast viewing audience out there, but as you're taking your notes while you watch our meetings, just remember, if you've got folks interested, these are your airports. So whether you're north of the Broad, south of the Broad, get in touch with us and come out and see us. This is one individual, and I hope we made her day. I mean, she made our day by coming out and just showing the enthusiasm. So we are more than willing to host people to come out and learn about the airport, take them up in the tower and let them see how that operates, let them ride in the ARF truck and spray some water. It doesn't matter if they're in a kindergarten or college or board level experience, whatever that is, come on out to the airport, set up a meeting with us and we'll be happy to take you around. So that is all I have.
All right, thank you.
Any questions I can answer?
Question here, not to deal with anything that you talked about here right now, but in the past, you talked about the conquistadors showing up. When is that again? You remember?
That is in the middle of May.
Middle of May,
Do you remember the exact? I don't remember the exact date.
May 17th.
Yeah, that sounds right. So it's at the middle of May.
Just refreshing my memory. I know it's a busy time at the airport when they show up.
It sure is. Yep.
John, if
It's been great to have Tom on County Council. He's been real involved. He came out and met with us, with Steve and I at the airport, and we kind of ran him through our quick command brief and had a chance to do some Q&A and just get Tom up to speed on what we do. We probably need to spend some more time out there to get you up in the tower, and you probably want to squirt some water out of the ARF truck. And, yeah, so we'll get you out there and let you play a little bit. But, you know, Tom made the point that county council needs to hear from us on an informational side, not always just a presentation side for an approval, but maybe call a timeout and all the business and get that quick brief and understand what we're doing at the airports, because it is a good news story. Both airports are really on a huge upswing right now, and I always say there's so much potential at both, but we're starting to realize that potential at both airports now too. So we're excited as a staff. We've got a great team. We've got some more new joins coming on. And we've got our Marine, who I talked about last month, the gunnery sergeant, who's working with us now, started last week. And he is phenomenal. So we're very glad to have him, an operations specialist, on board. So it's just really a good time at both airports. I think I've been saying that for just over 9.5 years, or about 9.5 years since I got here. But it's the best job in the county. I'm happy to do it. And we got a great team, so we're excited.
John, is there for somebody that may want to visit the airport and do the tours that you just talked about, is there a particular contact person?
I would say Rocio, and maybe, I don't know if we put something on the website, Rocio, but that's probably the best way. But y'all have her email address from getting the board correspondence, so that would probably be the best place to start, because Rocio manages my schedule, Steve's schedule, her schedule, so she's the best place to start. Thank you. Good question.
John, didn't you used to have an airport day where some school groups used to come? Do we still do that?
Well, the school groups just kind of come when they're able to. So they'll call us in advance and schedule that, and we'll have them out on the fire truck and things, or at least get to see the fire trucks. Well, we did have an open house a few years ago, and we're kind of looking towards doing that again.
I think that might work, and happy to help with that.
Thank you.
I think that's on, Jim was not here, that's on his agenda. There's a meeting coming up with the marketing committee, and an open house of some sort at the airport is in its very preliminary stages of discussion. And of course, we'll be back to you as soon as there are some concrete suggestions that I'd like you to take a look at. So
Sounds good.
it's in the works for 2024.
Okay. Sounds good.
You talking both airports or just one airport? Or-
Well, the ones at Beaufort Executive seem to happen on their own. We'll have the one with the Aviation Week, and then in the
Right.
fall, we're going to do the 5K race again. So we'll open up the airport for that. And there's a little bit more work to be done on the details of the fall event, but that's going to be a little bit of a bigger
There was
open
like a
house type.
career day or something last.
Well, then there's a career day, because Jim Atkins always kind of
Right.
heads that up. So really, that's a third event that we have out
Yeah.
there at the airport. So it lends itself a little bit more readily to those events just because it's not commercial service. But there's no reason that we can't open up, on the GA side of Hilton Head Island Airport. Okay. All right. Thank you. Brian?
Other questions for John?
Can I ask a couple of questions about the airport itself? One is a follow-up from last month. Is there any update on the airport painting project? I understand the hang-up is getting the rubber off the runway, but is there any update on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've been trying to get that scheduled for a couple of months now. And what's the latest on that, Steve?
We have, that's what we're waiting on from the painting company, is to get the schedule, but we did have to add in the rubber removal from their company. We were trying to save some money utilizing county assets. The county asset is broken, and it's broken pretty bad. It's sent it back to the manufacturer. So we have to use the painter's rubber removal. But we're waiting on the painters to fit us into their schedule. We're kind of at the mercy of the painters right now.
Okay. The other thing is, I was asked to bring this up. We've talked about this before in the past, about the fact that we're a contract tower here, and there are certain services that are a little bit harder to get than federal towers. And the issue has once again come up about the availability of something in the control tower for the controllers to be able to see traffic. It's actually, I think I'm the only one here at this meeting, I think I'm the only one on the board who is actually an active pilot now at Hilton Head Airport. And we're seeing this as a deteriorating issue, unfortunately. We got a new controller in the tower now that started a month ago. Just today, I got a call this morning about a pilot that was spun around 5 times as a potential safety problem because the tower controllers didn't know where everybody was. I happen to have visited 3 contract towers in the last couple of months, and I noticed they all have some way to see traffic in their tower. What we've talked about in the past is the availability to get a radar feed, and you've already expressed that that's too expensive to do that, but I've also found out from being in 2 other towers that there's an alternate way to see traffic nowadays. As of 2020, most airplanes have to be equipped with this box that spits out what's called ADS-B, where they can see their traffic without radar anywhere. And I'm not sure if that's a less expensive, viable alternative or not, but I think it's something that's worth looking into, because with the airlines coming in here, one of the tower controllers, I should mention this, has actually been scolding people coming in for not talking to Beaufort approach or Savannah approach before they land, and they're not required to do that. And in a couple of cases, the student pilots were rather distracted enough by that that it almost became, once again, a safety issue. So I'm looking at this from the standpoint of safety, and I don't see it getting any better.
Yeah.
I don't know what the solution is, but it's something we have to look at.
Problem went up in the bigger airports.
Yeah, you should have a transponder.
I think we're the only tower that I have found between North Carolina and southern Florida that has commercial airline service where the tower can't see the planes until they're visually acquired at 3 miles out.
Yep. Well, that kind of takes me back to the roles of the board, and that might be something that we would ask the board to, submit some information on. Your specific examples are extremely important
The
from
one
a
thing
safety
I have been
standpoint.
looking at, and I think this might be part of the problem, is the other towers that I've looked at, I think this came up at least a year or 2 ago, that one of the problems is the volume of traffic. The FAA or whoever is going to fund this wants to see a certain volume, and I've been looking at our numbers here, and we're only doing about 41 to 43,000 operations a year, and these towers all have close to 100,000 operations, but still, I'm worried about the airlines coming in here and the impact that's having. I would not want to see an accident before something gets done about this.
Brian,
I
I
agree.
seem to recall in a previous discussion that it was mentioned that the threshold for that type of action is 30,000 operations, and we've exceeded that for a couple of years. So I'm right with you. I'm right with you.
So just a suggestion, Brian, you're also the liaison for Hilton Head Airport to AOPA. And there's several different facilities that smaller towers have employed to see traffic in the area that are far less costly than a radar feed. So suggestion there is maybe you contact them, come up with a list of suggestions that might be viable and cost-effective for the airports.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I've already done that. And they say it has to work through the individual airports, starting with the airport operation to get it done. I can get some information about how the process occurs.
Yeah, if you do that, Brian, and share that with us, because I have been speaking with one of the FAA administrators on this as well, and mentioned those same, data points to him, and he did reply, which is great. He's been very easy to communicate with, and his message was that the STAR system, which was the system that started in like 2000, it had a 20-year lifespan, and we're past that now, and now that's being declared basically obsolete. So they're not replacing STARS, and we never did qualify, nor can we be put on that list, is what he's telling us. But the FAA is evaluating off-the-shelf products like what you mentioned, Brian. The problem with that is it's an extensive evaluation, at least time-wise. I don't know what the details of the evaluation are, but the earliest he expects to hear anything is 2024. And I don't know if that's January or December. So in my mind, that's a long time to wait while we still got a considerable amount of jet traffic and piston traffic mixing it up in the air out there. So this would be a great issue to have some assistance from the board on.
Well, we all know we can sit at the end of the runway with ForeFlight and watch all the traffic, but we can't do that in the tower. So that's kind of weird, but I understand there's probably legalities involved, but still, hopefully that can work quicker than a couple of years, quite frankly.
Well, that raises an interesting point, Mark, because the way the whole operation works today now, I can be sitting in my living room and watching traffic fly around here, but our tower controllers can't. Something is wrong with that picture. Because the information is now available on more than just the STAR system. You don't even have to be in a radar environment to see this stuff.
Correct.
You need internet.
I look at it on my desk in my office.
Yeah,
I
there you go.
watch it.
Yeah, but they can't.
Right.
So the problem is, if you've dealt with the FAA for any period of time, is their approval process. The idea is work their way up through the chain of command very, very slowly, stopping at, 10 or 15 different locations on the way, and then extensive testing to minimize liability, and then approval. And it just takes years. It's very frustrating to make it happen, but maybe we can get something started for our airport. Brian, if you can come up with some suggestions and a little bit of a plan, get together with John, FAA, and see if we can make something happen.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Brian, because I forgot to mention to y'all that, and maybe I mentioned it last month, I just can't remember when I found out, but I'll be going to DC next week. You remember the trip that we had been taking in the past, and then it was stopped by the COVID time lapse there. So we're back into doing that. So next week, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll be in DC advocating on, a lot of different common airport issues. I think we've got every airport in Georgia and South Carolina attending the event, commercial airport, including Atlanta, which is always interesting. They swing a heavy bat, so we're glad to have them. So I'm doing that, and I'll have a chance to meet with, at a minimum, the staffers who belong to our delegation, but hopefully some of the members themselves will make themselves available. But that is one of the issues on my list to talk about, is the fact that we've got that control tower with commercial service, and we've got eyeballs and pencils. It's a scary place to be.
John, either last month or the month before, we talked about fuel sales at ARW, which are still doing incredibly well, based on the information that your office sends out. But there was some discussion about the full serve and self-serve being basically priced the same. And so we're doing a little survey for about 150 miles around ARW. We seem to be the only airport that has a choice between full serve and self-serve that prices the two facilities exactly the same. Every other airport that offers the dual fueling opportunity has some sort of discount for the self-serve. So I was wondering what your thoughts were with respect to that as we go forward.
Well, we're happy to look at anything, but the reason we made that decision, we used to have the discount for the self-serve. It was a very modest discount. What we decided to do was transfer that discount to our tenants. Because our tenants, if they took full serve, which they tend to enjoy, were not benefiting from a discount as a base tenant. So we shifted that same discount that was at self-serve to our tenants, because we thought it was important to take care of our based airport tenants. That was the rationale behind doing that. It's, like I said, it's a very modest discount, but we felt it was important to offer that to our tenants.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions for John under the director's report? No, don't go away, John. Stay there for a minute, just a moment. Any unfinished business? I don't recall any. Any board member with unfinished business? Hearing none, let's move right into new business.
All right, so new business, we've got, probably just messed up the screen for Nick, but not sure if I get the agenda back up there. Let's see. Let me find the document here. There it is. All right, hopefully Nick can see that. Okay, so we've got 3 action items today, and we'll take them one by one because they're a little bit, each one's a little bit different. The first one is a lease agreement, and we'll have a commercial operating agreement with that as well. But that's for a company that goes by Go Rentals, and they provide rental car service strictly to the FBO side, to the general aviation side. They need some office space, a little bit of storage space, so we've got that to offer them at 32 Hunter Road. So this is a kind of a twofer. We'll lease them some space, but we'll also have an operating agreement where we'll realize a concession fee as well as some other fees by entering into the agreement. So it'd be very similar to the rental car agreements that we have at the terminal.
Is that a permanent leasehold or long-term leasehold, or is that airport or space that the airport has acquired for the development process?
That is one of the Hunter Road properties that the airport acquired for the future expansion of the terminal and the stormwater parking, everything that's entailed with the terminal expansion into the future. So it's not involved in this first phase. So the way we set this up is typically a short-term lease. So it's usually a year term, and then there's a couple of renewals, but it's only on a one-year basis.
Okay. Anybody have any questions regarding? All right, I'll accept a motion to approve a commercial operating agreement and lease at 32 Hunter Road between Beaufort County and it's Giddybin or Giddybin and Associates for Go Rentals. Need a motion for that, Ann? A second, Leslie? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you. And all three of these will be on the agenda for the new committee that's called Public Facilities and Safety, and that's on the 27th of March. So we'll get that information to you. The second action item is a lease. Again, this is at 3200 Road. There's several pieces within that building, and this is for Ace Hardware. And what they plan to use that as basically a delivery reception point, so their trucks can come in and offload and store some of their additional supply in that building before they move it to their retail store. And this will just be a lease. It's not an operating agreement because they're just going to be using it as using the space.
No downside there.
No,
It's also short-term because of
It's right.
circumstances.
Short-term. All three of these are revenue agreements, so they're all revenue positive agreements.
And like you said, this is not a retail, this is just a storage.
Correct.
For them.
All right, so accept a motion to approve a lease at 32 Hunter Road between Beaufort County and Ace Hardware of Hilton Head. Need a motion maker. Brian? Tom will get a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes as well.
John, by short term, are you talking 1 year or some other term on the lease?
No, it's usually 1 year is what we do. And if we're right before the end of the fiscal year, because the fiscal year is what we use as a cutoff, so it might end up being a 15-month lease for the first term, and then it'll be a 1-year extension after that. We don't want to do a 3-month lease or something, poor guys. We do enough paperwork as it is. All right, so the last one, again, very similar. This is going to take us over to the other side of the airport, though, where the helicopter operation is in the A-frame building. They've just made a modification to their business plan out there. And as you know, as you may know, they offer the helicopter rentals. They rent some of the small kind of tour vehicles around that people can rent. And then they've also got a kind of a virtual reality arcade that they have inside the building as well. So it's become a little bit of an entertainment center in there as another option for tourists. And they're adding beer and wine sales inside there. It's already gone through the signature flight support process because it's on their leasehold, and it's gone through the county legal system as well. So everything's been approved to this point to bring to you, and then it will go on to the committee of council. So very similar to selling beer and wine in the terminal. So what this will be is just a new operating agreement because the helicopter company has just formed a new LLC to handle this specific part of their business plan. So that's why there's a new agreement.
So John, do you know if that agreement covers renovations of the building? Are they responsible for own renovations, or is the county responsible for?
All of that is addressed in the signature lease agreement.
In the signature lease?
Right, because they're a subtenant of,
They're
or a tenant of the
Of signature.
signature lease.
Okay. All right, any further questions for John on that lease? If not, accept a motion.
Are they selling the beer or wine before or after the helicopter runs?
Yeah,
That I don't know.
Accept a motion to approve a commercial operating agreement between Beaufort County and the Heliport LLC. And before we do that, you said this was a subtenant for, or sublease on signature, but the lease is being made between the heliport operator and Beaufort County, is that correct?
Well, this is an operating agreement, not a lease.
Okay.
So since it's a commercial business, they need to have an agreement with the airport.
Thank you. All right, so I'll repeat again. Accept a motion to approve a commercial operating agreement between Beaufort County and the Heliport LLC. Mark, and a second. Leslie, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes as well.
John, I probably should have asked earlier, but is that motion, that operating agreement replace all the previous ones, or is it an additional one?
No, this is new because like I said,
Because it's a new-
they formed a new LLC.
Right, okay.
So it's in addition to.
In addition, gotcha.
Correct.
And do you happen to remember the term of the agreement, the operating agreement, or is it?
I think that's probably the same way. We typically do a 1-year agreement,
own
and then
law.
we'll extend it each year. It's always set up where it's a mutual extension, so both parties have to agree to the extension, and then, of course, there's terms if one wants to break off.
Good, thank you. Any other questions for John? Thank you very much.
Thank you, and just before you go into the end of the meeting, I'll remind you that April is traditionally the time to elect leadership of the board, so I'm sure you're all over that, Howard, but just a reminder to you. Thank you.
Okay, a little chairman's update. I just want to remind you, we do have 2 vacancies over at, on the north of the Broad. We are looking for an active pilot and aircraft owner to fill 1 spot, and an individual associated with the Beaufort County Chamber of Commerce. So if you've got any friends or people interested in serving on the board, please let them know. There's an application process that they need to go through. Very simple, not very detailed, but we'd like to fill those positions as quickly as possible.
However, I know that there's a small list of people that are interested in being on the board, but none of them meet those qualifications you just talked about, being north of the
To the
Broad?
best of my knowledge, you're correct.
Okay.
None of those fit those particular qualifications. I did send the board members earlier in the month a copy of the Beaufort County code for our spots, and some of you are good enough to respond with ideas and suggestions. In the next couple of days, I will send out a revised, proposed change to those qualifications, and then I'll go on to John for further review, and we'll figure that out next month. But if you didn't participate last time around, please do. And as I have in the past, I encourage all of you, and I'm not necessarily talking to the folks that are here because you're here, all of our board members to attend in person. There is still an option to do it electronically by several different means, but I think we're far more productive when we get together in a single room, so keep that in mind. I know of no other committee reports at this time. No, hearing none, then we'll go back to our citizens' comment period. Check to see. David?
Appreciate the opportunity. 2 things came up in the meeting that I wanted to comment on. If the board gets to the point and the airport gets to the point where whatever terminology you want to use, the radar situation in the tower becomes a live matter, I want to make sure that you understand that the town and the chamber would be happy to participate in advocating for that improvement. The second item, John mentioned on 2 different occasions, students who are actively involved in the aviation field or interested in it. Just today, the headmistress of Heritage Academy, and Heritage Academy has students who are passionate about different things, told me that there were 6 students in the Heritage Academy that are using a simulator at the school to learn to fly. She also told me that her son, Lucas, just received a 4-year full boat scholarship to Embry-Riddle, and it's going to start flying. So we're on the way. It's a good message for the community, and I certainly appreciate all your hard work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
To follow Councilman Tom Reitz with District 11 County Council, I want to thank you for having me here on this liaison. And to John's point, there are 4 new county council members that have never been in politics. So I say we invite John and Steve and anybody that wants to be there, but if there's anything we can help you with in the county, let us know. But I'm new to it, and so if you can educate me, I'd love to see it. Thank you.
Thank you for
Appreciate
coming. Thank you for coming today. And John, maybe we can work something out as we did, as Leslie did for our local folks. And once again, touring the airport, get more of the county council people involved, see how many bodies we can get out to provide some sort of education. Is that feasible by you? Sure. All right, maybe we can work on that.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can make that happen. All right, any other comments or suggestions? Remind everybody that our next meeting is April 20th, 1:30 p.m. over in beautiful downtown Beaufort. I expect to see you.
Is that after Heritage? Heritage is the week before?
I think Heritage is just the week
Yeah,
before,
okay.
so should be no excuses for failing to attend. So we hope to see you all there. With that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. We'll be here a while without a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Tom, and a second, and all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to the folks in our audience.